In the grimdark, Inquisitors are some of the most powerful and feared individuals in the Imperium of Man. They are elite agents tasked with rooting out threats to humanity, such as heresy, alien infiltration, demonic corruption, and treachery from within. Their authority is nearly limitless, subjected only to the Emperor himself. Well, in theory. Inquisitors can command troops, assassins, and even space marines. They can pass judgment on planetary governors and exterminate entire worlds if they deem it necessary to prevent a greater threat. Like the KGB of the Soviet Union or the Gestapo of Nazi Germany, they operate outside standard legal systems with near-total freedom to investigate, interrogate, and eliminate those they suspect of corruption or treason. They are also comparable to the historical Spanish Inquisition, wielding absolute authority to determine guilt and mete out punishment, often without appeal or higher oversight. These Inquisitors operate under larger organizations which are called Orders. The three major ones are Order Hereticus, the Witch Hunters, the Order Xenos, which are the Alien Hunters, and the Order Malleus, the Demon Hunters, which by their name says everything you need to know about them. There are also many other minor orders like Hydra, Kronos, Aegis, Astartes, and Militarum, just to name a few. There are also those Inquisitors which operate in the far reaches, who often form what are called conclaves, which in turn, after long periods of time in isolation, begin to develop or evolve their philosophies on a parallel or different path as they appear in orders. And sometimes under a conclave, sometimes you'd find a cabal, which is a collective dedicated to investigating a particular matter. They gather Inquisitors from varied backgrounds and philosophies, all working together via different methods, and focus on a single goal, which is bigger than them. Then we can also classify them based on their philosophies. In broadly, there are the Radicals, which are more liberal in their way of working, which have the thinking of the end justifies the means, and the Puritans, who adhere strictly to the official imperial political and religious doctrine, the Creed. So in short, the Inquisition is a mishmash of different people working together in a way that shouldn't really be functional, but it is. But be what it may be, the Inquisitors of the Imperium are amongst the most well-armed and well-equipped individuals to handle the threats of the Xenos, the Heretics, and the Demon in the galaxy. Inquisitors often command diverse retinues tailored to their needs, which can include acolytes, their apprentices, interrogators, mercenaries, warriors, and sometimes even psychics and blanks, and even the Grey Knights. Their war gear are also diverse as they are funded by the organization with the deepest pockets in the Imperium. They wield a vast array of weapons, from bolt pistols, plasma guns, and melters to force weapons, demon blades, and even side cannons. Their armor ranges from carapace and normal ones to power armor to rare Terminator suits, often reinforced by protective fieldings like the Rosariuses or the Refractor shields. The Inquisitors, who are also psychers, may sometimes use psychic hoods, grimoires, and anti-demonic relics, while utility gear which they have includes servo skulls, auspex scanners, cybernetics, and the all-powerful Inquisitorial seal. But even with all these things, the Inquisitor, even with the elite training and maybe even cybernetic enhancements, are still fully human and mortal in every sense, despite some living over many centuries. But amongst the untold thousands of them, there are a few, which are still human, that can be considered to be above the rest. And so here, we bring to you the 10 most powerful Inquisitors as far as we know. Of course, we start the list with Gregor Eisenhorn. Inquisitor Gregor Eisenhorn began his career as a Puritan of the Amalthean faction, firmly upholding traditional inquisitorial values. However, over time, his ideology shifted dramatically towards radical Xanathism, a controversial philosophy advocating the use of warp-based weaponry and turning chaos against itself. This change led many within the Inquisition to label him as a potential heretical, and he was officially declared a rogue twice, only to be vindicated each time. He was a powerful psyker with exceptional willpower. He primarily channels his telepathy through his voice in order to compel obedience from others, especially large crowds. But after enduring experimentation by the Cognitae, his psychic abilities grew significantly, enough to instill fear even in the demon called Cherubale, whom he later bound to his will using the Enuncia, which is essentially an ancient weaponized language. Also physically, he is known to be strong with his crude augmentic rig, which assists his movement and balance. Despite being centuries old, rejuvenate treatments have preserved his appearance to that of a man in the middle years. Amongst other things, he is most renowned for defeating the heretical inquisitor called Quixus and binding the demon Cherubale into his service. Of course, next we have Gideon Ravenor. He was a renowned inquisitor of the Ordo Xenos in the 4th century of M41. He was a former protege of Gregor Eisenhorn. He was severely wounded during an ambush on Thracian Primaris, and Ravenor from then on was confined for life to a high-tech dispenser chair. But the trauma there only sharpened his already potent psychic abilities, essentially becoming 40K's Professor Xavier, but without all that moral restraint. His force chair also had psi amplifiers and built-in psi cannons, which in turn made him a deadly combatant despite his physical limitations. His psychic powers are rated somewhere between high-level Delta and low-level Gamma, and thus allowed him to read minds, to project his thoughts across distances, and defeat most psychers in metal combat. Amongst his most notable feats was the banishment of Slight, a demon prince of terrifying power who was classified as a Demonicus Arcana Majoris, a threat to the Imperium that was so dire that only Ravenor's intervention prevented a catastrophe. Next we have Hector Rex. Inquisitor Lord Hector Rex was one of the most powerful and most respected Inquisitors of his time, holding the esteemed title of Auditory Imperator, a rare distinction granted to those few who have been in the presence of the Emperor himself. As also the Lord Proctor of the Scarus Conclave during the infamous Siege of Vrax, Rex wielded not only immense authority within the Ordo Malleus, but also a formidable combination of psychic, political, and martial strength. Rex also possessed a massive physique that made him as fearsome in close combat as he was in commanding or in strategy. On the battlefield, Rex proved his strength by personally banishing the monstrous greater demon Angrath the Unbound, which was an act that alone places him amongst the greatest Inquisitor lords of the era. Wielding the anointed force sword called Arius, the very blade that banished Angrath, and clad in modified artificer armor to suit his enhanced frame, Hector Rex was nearly unstoppable in combat. His war gear included a storm shield as well, a bolt pistol loaded with psi cannon rounds, and a grimoire of true names, which was a powerful tome, a book, against demonic entities. Okay, next we have Torquemada Cortiers. Torquemada Cortiers, the High Protector of the Formosa sector, is a feared and fanatical Inquisitor Lord of the Ordo Malleus, known across the Imperium for his uncompromising zeal and brutal efficiency in the eradication of demonic threats. He is clad in a masterfully crafted artificer armor woven with a refractor shield or a field for added protection. He is also never seen without his sacred demon hammer and his bolt pistol. Funny enough, he was saved by an Inquisitor from a demon in his younger years. Then later, he damned and executed the same Inquisitor for dabbing too much on chaos items, which makes him an uncompromising individual, serving none but the Imperium. Cortiers' most famed action came during the cleansing of Opridia in 972 of M41, where he led a brutal purge of the planet's million demon hosts, and in the final battle, he confronted and slew the powerful demon prince Carpathi the Occludor, with the support from the famous Incorruptible Exorcist chapter. Okay, next is a controversial entry, but anyways, we will justify this in the end. Here we have Bronnis Lord Chevut, a High Inquisitor who is a renowned member of the Ordo Xenos. He was famous for his deep studies of the Eldar. He earned the rare honor of being a guest on Craftwell Eondon and was later granted access to the Black Library by the Harlequins. By the end of M41, he was a 400-year-old man that was kept alive by cryogenic suspensor suit, and he was also infected with a meme virus by another Inquisitor to forcefully aid his mind in absorbing forbidden arcane knowledge. And although he was never noted to be a deadly warrior above the rest of the Inquisitors, his knowledge gained from the Black Library certainly would give him a lot of advantages in winning future encounters with the alien and the demons, and that's the only reason why he is here in this list. So moving on, next we have Covenant. Inquisitor Covenant is a dedicated and unyielding member of the Ordo Malleus, sworn to root out the taint of chaos from within the Inquisition itself. He is a psyker of restrained power. He possesses limited but focused psychic abilities that enhances his combat and investigative skill. What sets him apart though is his relentless crusade against perceived internal corruption, particularly the creation and use of demon hosts by radical Inquisitors who have strayed too close to damnation in their pursuit of power. On one particular instance, during the 18th birthday of his would-be apprentice, Evaxia Danica, he discovered a chaos cult festering in the shadows. During a celebration, the cultists manifested a violent eruption of blood and warp fire as a demon of chaos tore into reality, unleashing carnage upon the unsuspecting guests of that celebration. It was here that Covenant showed his mettle as he acted swiftly and expertly, using his mastery of the demon hunter's art to contain the creature and then banish it back to the warp with relative ease, I might say. although there was no doubt a few collateral casualties, but that is just part and parcel of the reality of Warhammer. Anyway, moving on, now we come to Felroth Guelt, who was once a celebrated and feared Inquisitor of the Calixis sector. He was a former mono-dominant Puritan who spent over 3 centuries crushing the enemies of the Imperium with unrelenting force. He was bold, brilliant, and favored by the Lord Inquisitor Gideon himself. Guelt led stormtrooper regiments, he wielded captive psychers, and defeated horrors such as the Demon of Cainoc and the Cantrician Foulmine. But sometimes his victories came at heavy cost, his acolytes, his certainty, and eventually his faith in the Puritan creed crumbled. The turning point came on Kasha, where Guelt met Inquisitor Draven and witnessed chaos weaponized against chaos. He was then drawn into the radical Xanthite fold. Guelt embraced the warp's powers to extend his life and enhance his strength. He then abandoned his old identity, his teachings and his followers, vanishing into the unknown in pursuit of greater weapons to fight the enemies of the Imperium. Now considered myth by some, Felroth Guelt remained a shadow legend who might still be alive and fighting the demons and the Xenos in the Calixis sector. The 8th entry here is Solomon Locke. So Inquisitor Solomon Locke of the Ordo Xenos was a seasoned and pragmatic investigator known for his cold efficiency and deep knowledge of the Xenos threats, having previously survived the brutal Chinchari herd infestation, surviving the herd which were like time-warping entities. Solomon Locke was no stranger to facing overwhelming odds and alien horrors. In the year 850 of M41, he was dispatched to investigate a sudden loss of communication from a research facility on the moon of Beta and Phelion 4. Locke led a diverse task force to the moon's surface and discovered that it was overrun by Tyranids. As the battle against the swarm escalated, the Imperium's brutal logic reasserted itself. The Red Scorpions, the chapter of Space Marines which were with him as a retinue, they received a direct evacuation order, which was something that was only applied to the Space Marines since they were Space Marines and not really mortal humans. Therefore, refusing to surrender, Locke led a desperate last stand against the Tyranids. In an act of sheer determination, he even managed to bring down a towering Hierophant Biotitan, which is a feat that not many Space Marines themselves can claim. But before he could celebrate, 2 more of these monstrosities appeared, and thus surrounded, outgunned and abandoned, Solomon Locke met his unfortunate end. Second last, here we have Tyrus. Inquisitor Tyrus was a fearsome witch hunter of the Ordo Hereticus and a zealous monodominant, utterly devoted to the extermination of all psychers, mutants, heretics, and aliens. As a child, he survived a massacre on his homeworld of Loressa when the demon prince Koloth the Excoriator possessed a girl and destroyed his village. Tyrus was mutilated and nearly killed, but was saved by the witch hunter Corvonis and a squad of Grey Knights by his side. Raised as Corvonis' acolyte, Tyrus became a ruthless demon hunter himself, mastering ancient rites and weapons of purity. Decades later, on Epsilon Regalis, Koloth the Excoriator returned, possessing a princess and killing Corvonis. But in a fierce battle, Tyrus avenged his master, confronting Koloth in a brutal duel. By invoking sacred prayers and wielding the power knife of Corvonis, Tyrus stabbed through the demon's chest and crushed its heart, banishing it back to the warp. So yeah, as you can see, like many others before him, banishing a demon is a great feat that in turn makes one worthy of being considered as one of the most powerful, and also here in this list. And the last entry here is Katarinia Grafax. Inquisitor Katarinia Grafax is a formidable and an unrelenting agent of the Ordo Hereticus. She was strictly a strict Puritan, and Grafax held a rigid view of the Imperium's enemies, especially unsanctioned psychers, mutants, and any deviation from the Ecclesiarchy's teachings. But ironically, she was also a powerful psyker herself, despite her deep mistrust of those with such abilities. Centuries ago, Grafax was captured and imprisoned within a Tesseract vault by the Necron overlord and kleptomaniac called Treason the Infinite. She was suspended in stasis with other relics of history. She remained trapped for generations, lost to time, until Treason released her during the 13th Black Crusade to aid in the defense of Cadia. What she awoke to horrified her, sanctioned psychers wielding their power freely, and the masses treating the living saint Celestine with reverence that bordered on the idolatry. But she still fought on for the Imperium, and during the battle for Cadia, Grafax showed her true power. She directly engaged Abaddon the Despoiler, unleashing a psychic assault so intense that it seared through the Despoiler's mind, briefly blinding him and halting his killing blow on the living saint Celestine. And if you're just a lowly human that could badly hurt Abaddon the Despoiler well then you're one of the strongest in any list. Oh, and she later also banished a demon prince with her power sought during the search for an item called the Eye of Night, which cements her as a really powerful individual. And with that, we end this video on the 10 strongest Inquisitors of the Imperium. Anyway, if you like this video, then watch this other one too, the one in the end screens, and do hit that like button for support. Also smash that subscribe button to be a part of Legio Nutbug. Till the next time, take care, boys.